The twin suns of the colony world were beginning to set, painting the sky with orange and violet. The air was dry and the ground cracked from weeks without rain. Farmers were returning to their homes after another long day in the fields, carrying tools worn down from years of use. Among them was Aaron, a quiet man who had lived on this edge world all his life. His hands were rough from labor, but his spirit remained steady. Aaron carried a bundle of grain across the path that led to his small house. As he walked, he noticed movement near the outer fence. At first he thought it was a wild creature, but then he saw a figure standing still as if unsure where to go. The figure was a woman. She wore a long coat, plain and dusty from travel. Her steps were slow and her shoulders sagged under the weight of her pack. Without thinking twice, Aaron walked toward her. He did not recognize her face, but that was no surprise. Travelers sometimes passed through the colony, looking for water or food before moving on. "Are you lost?" Aaron asked, keeping his tone calm. The woman lifted her head. Her eyes were sharp yet tired. She gave a small nod as if she did not wish to speak too much. Aaron could see she was worn out from a long journey. Her boots were scuffed and dust clung to her hair. "You should come with me," Aaron said. "The nights here are cold. You will need shelter." The woman hesitated, studying him for a moment. Most strangers on distant worlds were careful, and Aaron understood. Trust was not given easily, especially far from the central planets. But after a pause, she stepped forward. They walked together in silence until they reached Aaron's small house. It was built from stone and metal sheets, nothing impressive, but it was sturdy. A warm fire glowed inside, and the smell of fresh bread filled the air. Aaron placed the grain down and motioned for her to sit. "You can rest here," he said. "I have food to share." The woman sat quietly by the fire. She pulled her coat tighter around herself as if unused to such a simple setting. Aaron poured water into a cup and handed it to her. She accepted it with both hands, drinking slowly. "Thank you," she finally said, her voice low but steady. Aaron gave a small smile. "No need for thanks. A person should not wander hungry in these parts." As he cut slices of bread and placed them on the table, the woman's eyes followed his movements. She seemed to study everything. The rough wooden table, the patched roof above, even the tools hung neatly on the wall. It was as if she had not been inside such a humble home in a long time. Aaron offered her bread and a bowl of stew. She ate carefully, almost too carefully, as though she was unused to such food. Aaron watched but did not ask questions. He knew better than to press a traveler for details. Out here, everyone carried their own stories, and not all were meant to be shared. "What is your name?" Aaron asked after a while. The woman hesitated, then answered simply, "Saris." It was a name that did not sound common, but Aaron nodded without comment. "I am Aaron," he said. Saris gave a faint smile. It was small, but it softened her tired face. After eating, she sat quietly, staring into the fire. The flames reflected in her eyes, and for a moment she looked lost in thought. Aaron wondered where she had come from, but he did not speak. Silence was sometimes better than questions. Outside, the winds began to rise, carrying dust across the colony fields. Aaron placed extra wood on the fire. He handed Saris a blanket. She accepted it without a word, her hands brushing against his for a brief moment. "You can rest here for the night," Aaron said. "Tomorrow, if you wish, I can show you the colony. Perhaps you will find what you are looking for." Saris gave a slow nod. Her gaze lingered on him for a moment, as if she saw something in his simple offer that carried more weight than he realized. Aaron did not know who she truly was. To him, she was just another traveler, weary and in need of help. He did not see the hidden strength in her calm eyes, nor the great distance she had traveled. All he saw was someone who needed shelter, and that was enough. That night, as the stars spread across the dark sky, the small house on the edge of the colony held two people from very different worlds. One was a farmer who had never left his land. The other was a ruler disguised and unknown. Yet in that moment, titles and power meant nothing. What mattered was the kindness of one human, offered without hesitation. And it was this kindness that would set in motion events far greater than Aaron could ever imagine. The morning light spread across the colony, soft and golden. Aaron rose early as always, stepping outside to check the fields. The soil was dry and the crops struggled, but he worked with steady hands. Behind him, the door opened and Saris stepped out. She looked different in the morning sun, her coat draped loosely around her hair brushing against the wind. "You are awake early," Aaron said. "I do not sleep much," she answered. Her voice carried a calm tone, but there was something distant in it, as though her thoughts belonged to another place. Aaron handed her a piece of fruit from the small orchard near his house. She held it carefully, turning it in her hands before tasting it. The fruit was not rich or sweet like the ones grown in central worlds, but it carried the honest flavor of hard soil and patient tending. Saris ate it slowly, her eyes thoughtful. After breakfast, Aaron showed her the colony. It was not a large settlement, only a cluster of stone houses and storage buildings. Families moved about, repairing fences, carrying water, or tending to animals. Children ran between houses, their laughter lightening the air. "This is your home," Saris said, looking around with quiet interest. "Yes," Aaron replied. "We make do with what we have. It is not much, but it is enough." Saris walked beside him, listening closely as he explained how they survived. He showed her the well where they drew water, the wind towers that gave them power, and the storage sheds where grain was kept safe from storms. She asked questions not in the way of someone making casual talk, but in the way of someone who wanted to understand every detail. "How do you manage when the rains fail?" she asked. "We share," Aaron said. "When one field suffers, others give. No one is left hungry if it can be avoided." Saris nodded slowly. Her eyes wandered over the cracked ground and the patched roofs. In her own world, wealth and abundance were endless, yet here she saw people holding on with so little. She could not remember the last time anyone around her had spoken of sharing before survival. As they walked farther, a group of workers greeted Aaron. He introduced Saris as a traveler passing through. The colonists smiled politely but did not ask questions. Strangers were rare, yet they treated her with quiet respect. Saris felt their eyes linger on her coat, her boots, her careful manner. She wondered if they sensed that she did not belong in such a place. Later in the day, Aaron took her to the riverbed that wound near the colony. It had once flowed strong, but now only a thin trickle remained. Aaron knelt by the water, filling a container. Saris crouched beside him, dipping her fingers in the stream. "It is weak," she said softly. "It has been like this for years," Aaron explained, "but we keep working. We always believe the rains will return." Saris looked at him. "You trust what you cannot see." Aaron smiled faintly. "Hope is what keeps us moving." Her gaze lingered on him, and for a moment she wanted to speak her truth, to tell him who she was and what worlds she ruled. Yet the words would not come. She feared it would change everything, and for once she wished to remain unseen, judged not by her crown but by her choices in this simple place. That evening, as the sun set, Aaron and Saris returned to his home. He set wood on the fire while she sat quietly, watching the flames grow. The warmth lit her face, and Aaron noticed how her eyes carried both strength and sorrow. "Why do you travel alone?" Aaron asked gently. Saris looked at the fire, not at him. After a pause, she said, "Sometimes it is necessary to step away from where you are known." Aaron nodded. He did not press for more. Her answer was enough. Even if it carried layers he did not understand. After the meal, the colony bells rang, calling people to gather. A meeting was to be held in the square. Saris followed Aaron to the gathering place where the leader of the colony, an elder named Darren, spoke of dangers beyond the hills. Raiders had been spotted. They moved from settlement to settlement, taking what they wanted. The colony had little to offer, but even that little could attract those who preyed on the weak. The people murmured with worry, but no one spoke of leaving. Their roots were here. This was their home. They would face the danger together. Saris stood among them, her eyes scanning the crowd. These were not soldiers, only farmers and builders, yet their faces carried determination. She had seen great armies across the galaxy, men and women with weapons of unmatched power, but their strength often came from fear or duty. Here she saw another kind of strength, born of unity. After the meeting, Aaron walked her back to the house. "Do not worry," he said. "We have faced raiders before. We are not defenseless." Saris studied him. He spoke with steady calm, not pride. He truly believed in the resilience of his people. It stirred something within her. As night fell, Saris lay awake, staring at the ceiling of the small house. She thought of her palace, her council, her fleets waiting for her command. Yet in this simple colony she felt something she had not felt in years. She felt real, and though Aaron had no idea who she was, his kindness had already changed her in ways she did not yet fully understand. The days passed slowly in the colony, each one filled with the rhythm of work and survival. Aaron rose with the first light and worked in the fields. Saris often followed, walking beside him, watching carefully. At first she seemed like a silent observer, but soon she began to help with small tasks. She carried water, gathered tools, and even tried her hand at repairing fences. Her hands were not skilled for such work, yet she did not complain. The colonists grew used to her presence. They greeted her kindly, though still with curiosity. To them she was only a traveler who had found rest among them. No one guessed the truth hidden behind her calm expression. One afternoon, while Aaron worked to fix a broken irrigation pipe, Saris stood nearby, her coat set aside in the heat. Aaron's brow was wet with sweat as he struggled with the old metal joints. The colony had no new parts, only scraps saved from years of trade. With patience, Aaron shaped and hammered the pieces until water began to flow again. "You make it work with so little," Saris said quietly. Aaron looked up at her. "We cannot wait for better. We use what we have or nothing survives." Her gaze lingered on him. To her it was strange. In her world, when something broke, new parts were brought immediately or entire machines were replaced. No one of her rank had ever bent down to hammer a pipe. Yet here was a man with no wealth and no title, creating life from scraps. As the sun dipped low, warning bells rang across the colony. Dust rose on the horizon. Riders were approaching. The raiders had come, the people gathered quickly. Men and women took up whatever weapons they had. Old rifles, sharpened tools, even farming blades. Children were rushed indoors. Aaron stood firm among them, his face calm. Saris watched him and felt a strange tension in her chest. She had seen battles, great ones fought with fleets and armies. But this was different. These people had nothing yet stood ready to protect what little they had. The raiders stormed into the fields, shouting and firing shots into the air to frighten the colonists. Their vehicles kicked up clouds of dust as they circled. Aaron stepped forward, gripping an old rifle. Other farmers joined him, forming a line. "Leave us," Aaron called out. "You will find nothing here but empty fields." The raider leader laughed. His men spread out, their weapons gleaming. They expected fear, but what they saw instead was resistance. The colonists did not run. The first clash came quickly. Shots cracked through the dry air. Aaron fired, forcing one raider back. Another lunged forward, but a group of farmers swung their tools to drive him off. The air filled with shouts and dust. Sarah stood near the houses, watching every moment. She could have ended it instantly with one command to her hidden forces, but she remained silent. She wanted to see what these humans would do. During the fight, a raider broke through the line, rushing toward the homes. Saris froze for a moment, her mind torn. She was not supposed to reveal herself, yet she could not stand aside. She picked up a farming tool from the ground and swung it with both hands, blocking the raider's strike. Surprised by her sudden courage, the raider stumbled back before being pushed away by others who came running. Aaron saw it happen. His eyes met hers for a brief moment, filled with both shock and respect. He had not expected the quiet traveler to fight at all. After a long struggle, the raiders realized the colony would not fall easily. They shouted curses and sped back into the hills, leaving behind smoke and dust. The colonists cheered, though their weapons and bodies were worn. They had defended their home once again. Aaron walked to Saris, who stood still with the farming tool in her hand. Her breathing was heavy, but her face was steady. "You should not have risked yourself," Aaron said. Saris shook her head. "I could not watch and do nothing." For the first time, Aaron smiled at her with true warmth. "Then you are one of us." The colonists gathered together, tending to wounds and repairing damage. Children peeked out from homes, running back to their parents. The air carried both exhaustion and pride. Saris watched them. Her heart stirred in a way she had not felt in years. These people had little, yet they fought for each other without hesitation. That night, the colony celebrated quietly around the fires. Simple songs were sung and bread was shared among all. Aaron sat beside Saris, handing her a cup of water. She took it, her fingers brushing against his. The firelight reflected in his eyes, strong and steady. "You fight without fear," Saris said. Aaron shook his head. "I fight with fear, but I fight anyway. That is what it means to protect your home." Her gaze stayed on him. His words carried a weight greater than the speeches of her council. In his world, courage was not born from orders or riches, but from love of people and land. As the stars filled the sky, Saris lay awake again. She thought of her fleets and her throne. None of it felt as real as this day. when she stood beside simple humans who fought with broken tools and unshaken hearts. Aaron had no idea who she truly was. Yet his kindness and courage had shown her something she had long forgotten. That strength was not only measured in power, but in the will to stand together. And though she had not revealed her identity, Saris knew the path she had taken to this colony was no accident. Something within her told her that this meeting was the beginning of a change far greater than she could yet imagine. The colony was quiet after the raid. Farmers returned to their fields, repairing fences and tools. Children played once more in the dusty streets, their laughter carrying across the air as if to drive away the memory of danger. But Saris felt restless. Each day she walked through the colony with Aaron, listening, watching, learning. She admired how people endured with so little, yet she also knew something they did not. Her time of hiding was running short. One evening, as the suns dipped low, Saris sat alone in Aaron's house. He had gone to help with a damaged tower, leaving her in silence. She opened her pack, which she always kept close. From inside, she drew a small, elegant device no colonist would recognize. Its surface glowed softly at her touch, and a faint hum filled the room. "Report," she whispered. A shimmering blue figure appeared before her. It was an officer, dressed in the formal armor of the Crown Guard. His face was stern, his voice sharp. "Your Majesty, we have traced your signal at last," he said. "The Council demands your return. Fleets await your command." Saris lowered her gaze. "I am not ready to return." The officer looked alarmed. "Majesty, the galaxy waits for you. Your absence has left the throne silent. Rumors spread, rivals move. We cannot hold forever without your hand." Her jaw tightened. "And yet I remain here." The officer hesitated, then bowed. "As you wish. But the Council grows restless. Soon they will act." The hologram faded, leaving Saris in silence once more. She placed the device back in her pack, her heart heavy. She was the ruler of countless worlds, the richest and most powerful woman alive. Yet here she sat in a simple stone house, warmed by a fire built from dry wood. She heard footsteps outside. Quickly, she covered the device and sat still. Aaron entered, his hands marked with dust from work. He gave her a small smile. "The tower is stable again," he said. "We will have light for the night." Saris nodded, forcing calm into her voice. "You work hard for this colony." "It is my home," Aaron replied. He set a bowl of stew on the table, motioning for her to eat. She obeyed, though her mind was far away. As the fire crackled, Aaron studied her. There was something about Saris he could not explain. She carried herself with grace unlike any traveler he had met. Her eyes seemed to hold secrets of distant stars, yet she asked no favors, demanded no respect. She lived among them as one of their own. "Saris," Aaron said carefully, "you are not like us, are you?" Her hand froze over the bowl. For a moment she thought of denying it, but his steady gaze left her no escape. "What do you mean?" she asked. "You move with the calm of someone who has seen far more than this colony." Aaron replied, "Your words, your eyes, they are not of a wanderer. You are something more." Saris set the bowl down. The silence stretched. At last she spoke. "You are right. I'm not only a traveler. I come from the heart of the galaxy." Aaron frowned, waiting. "I am Saris of the Crown," she continued slowly, "the ruler of the great houses. My word guides fleets, my wealth builds cities, and yet here I sit in your home." Aaron stared at her, his breath caught. He had expected something unusual, but not this. The ruler of the galaxy was sitting at his table, eating his bread, walking his fields. "You jest," he said at last. Her eyes did not waver. "I speak truth." Silence filled the room again. Aaron leaned back, trying to grasp her words. If they were true, then the woman he had protected during the raid was richer than any queen, greater than any leader. Yet she had never once spoken of power, only listened to the simple lives of his people. "Why are you here?" he asked finally. Saris looked into the fire. "Because I needed to see life as it is. Not the life painted in marble halls, not the voices that flatter and hide truth. Here I see what it means to endure. Here I see what it means to give even when there is little." Aaron was quiet. His thoughts were heavy, yet he did not step back. Instead he asked, "And now that I know, what will you do?" Saris turned her eyes toward him. For the first time her voice trembled. "I do not know." The fire crackled louder in the silence. Aaron studied her face, seeing not a ruler, not a queen, but a woman burdened by more than anyone could bear. He realized then that power had not freed her. It had caged her, He reached for the stew, filling her bowl again. "Then for now, eat," he said simply. "Tomorrow will decide itself." Sarah stared at him, surprised. He had not bowed, not begged, not even asked for a reward. He had spoken to her as he always did, with plain honesty. For the first time in years, Sarah felt something she had lost in the halls of power. She felt seen not as a ruler, but as herself. That night, while the stars burned bright above, Sarah lay awake again. Her secret was no longer hidden, yet instead of fear, she felt a strange relief. Aaron knew, and still he treated her as before. She wondered what the council would say if they knew she chose to stay here another day. And deep within her heart, she knew the story of her life had begun to change the moment Aaron had offered her bread and water, without knowing who she was. The days after Sirius revealed her identity passed with an unusual calm. Aaron did not treat her differently, though the truth weighed on his thoughts. He still worked the fields, repaired the old tools, and greeted her with the same plain kindness as before. Sirius noticed it every moment. She had expected fear or distance once her secret was known, but Aaron carried on as if nothing had changed. One morning, Aaron found the irrigation system broken again. The water that had been flowing weekly now leaked from the cracked pipes, wasting what little they had. The colony gathered in worry. Without water, their crops would wither faster than before. Sarah stood among them, her cloak wrapped around her shoulders. She thought of how easily her engineers could fix this problem. With a single message to her fleets, supplies and machines could arrive within hours. But she remained silent, watching as Aaron examined the broken system. He knelt beside the pipes, tapping them, testing the flow. His hands were firm, his eyes steady. Around him, other colonists gathered scraps, metal sheets, wires, old parts saved for emergencies. Aaron began to fit them together, shaping new joints where the old ones had failed. Sarah stepped closer. "Will this work?" she asked. Aaron nodded slightly. "It must. We cannot wait for new parts. If we use what we have and shape it right, it will hold." He hammered and bent the pieces with slow patience, not rushing even as the sun burned overhead. Sweat ran down his face, but his focus never broke. Finally, he sealed the pipe, tightened the last joint, and stepped back. Water trickled again, weak but steady. The people cheered, clapping him on the back. Saris watched in silence, her heart moved. She had seen her own engineers with limitless resources, yet often they solved problems by discarding the old and bringing the new. Here, Aaron had saved life with scraps that others might have thrown away. It was not power or wealth that made him strong, but the will to find a way where none seemed possible. Later, as they walked back to the house, Saris asked, "Why do you try so hard for this colony? You could leave for better worlds." Aaron shook his head. "This is my home. If I leave, who will stay? We are strong, because we choose to remain together. It is not riches that hold us here, but roots." His words struck her. In her palace, loyalty was often bought with gold or titles. Here, loyalty was given freely without reward. That evening, children played in the square, laughing as they chased each other around. Sarah sat with Aaron, watching them. One little girl approached her holding a small carved toy made from wood. She handed it to Saris with a shy smile. "It is for you," the child said. Saris took it carefully. It was simple, rough around the edges, but shaped with care into the figure of a bird. Her throat tightened. She, who owned treasures beyond measure, had never received a gift made with such innocent kindness. She looked at Aaron, who smiled softly. "This is what we do," he said. "We share even when we have little." That night, Saris thought deeply. She remembered her council, who argued endlessly about power and wealth. She remembered the halls of marble, where people bowed to her not out of love but out of duty. And then she thought of this colony, where a broken pipe was mended with scraps, where a child gave away her toy with a smile. The next day, Saris joined Iran again in the fields. This time she worked beside him, carrying water and gathering tools. Her hands were clumsy, but she kept trying. Aaron did not laugh or scold. He simply showed her patiently how to hold a tool, how to tie a knot, how to steady a beam. She found herself enjoying the work more than she expected. At midday, as they rested under the shade of a tree, Saris spoke softly. "When I sit on my throne, I am told I am strong. But here I see a different strength. You endure with almost nothing, yet you still smile. You still give. This is something even rulers must learn." Aaron looked at her quietly, then said, "Strength is not only in ruling, It is in choosing to care for others even when it is hard. That is what keeps us alive. His words stayed with her long after the sun set. That evening, Sarah stood outside, gazing at the stars. She thought of her fleets waiting for her orders, her palaces filled with riches, her council restless in her absence. All of it seemed distant compared to the quiet strength of this colony. She realized that power without heart was empty. These humans with no wealth and no armies had taught her more about ruling than all the speeches of her advisors. She clenched the small wooden bird in her hand, feeling its rough edges. For the first time, she wondered if her rule would ever be the same again. And though she had not yet decided her path, one truth was clear to her now. Humans, even at the edge of survival, carried a strength that no crown could command. It was a strength born not from power but from heart. The morning began with silence. The sky above the colony stretched wide and calm, painted with soft light. Sarah stood near the edge of the fields, holding the small wooden bird close to her heart. She had carried it since the child gave it to her, and it reminded her of the kindness she had seen here. But today her thoughts were heavy. She knew her fleets would not remain patient much longer. Without warning, the silence broke. The sky shimmered with sudden movement. Bright shapes appeared, growing larger as they descended from the clouds. Ships vast, silver and sharp, cut across the horizon. Their engines hummed with power that shook the ground. The colonists froze. Some dropped tools, others gathered children close. Fear spread quickly, for none of them had seen such vessels before. To them, it looked like the arrival of an empire ready for conquest. Aaron stood tall, his eyes steady. He did not run, though he knew danger could follow. He turned to Saris, who was already watching the ships with a heavy gaze. "They have come for you," he said calmly. Saris nodded. "Yes, they will not understand why I remained here. They believe I am in danger or taken against my will. I must speak before harm comes." The largest ship descended first, landing beyond the fields. The ground trembled as its legs sank into the soil. From its ramp stepped soldiers in shining armor, their movements strict and sharp. At their center walked a tall commander, his cloak sweeping behind him. His voice carried across the fields. "Your Majesty, we have searched for you across half the stars. Why are you here among these settlers?" The soldiers raised their weapons not at Saris, but at the colonists who stood frozen in fear. Aaron moved forward, placing himself between the soldiers and his people. "Lower your arms," he said firmly. "These people have done nothing." The commander frowned at him as though he were an insect. "You will not speak before the queen," he replied coldly. But before he could order further, Saris raised her hand. Her voice rang out clear. "Stand down." The soldiers froze instantly. The commander bowed his head, though confusion filled his eyes. "Majesty, we came to bring you back to safety. This place is beneath you. It is unworthy of your presence." Saris looked at the colony behind her. The people watching in silence, the children clinging to their parents, the crops struggling to grow yet still alive. Then she turned back to her commander. "You call it unworthy," she said, "but here I have seen strength greater than the might of fleets. These people live with little, yet they give freely. They repair with scraps, yet they endure. They are stronger than many kingdoms." The commander's face showed disbelief. "Majesty, they are only farmers and settlers. What can they teach us?" Aaron stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. "We may not have palaces or armies, but we have each other. That is why we survive." The soldiers shifted uneasily. Never before had a simple farmer spoken before their queen with such boldness. Saris raised her hand again and silence returned. "I stayed here," she said slowly, "because I wish to see what life is beyond my throne, and what I found has changed me. These people do not bow from fear or command. They share because their hearts guide them. If an empire does not learn from this, then it will crumble no matter how vast its fleets may be." The commander hesitated. "Majesty, the council will not approve of such words." Saris stepped closer, her eyes sharp. "Then the council will listen, for I am their queen. From this day forward, we will not rule only with power. We will rule with the strength of heart, as I have seen here." Her voice carried across the fields. The colonists looked at her with wonder. Aaron stood silent, watching her, yet a faint smile touched his face. He knew her words were true, and he knew they were not spoken for show. She had learned them here, among the dust and broken tools. The commander lowered his head slowly. "As you command, Majesty." The soldiers lowered their weapons at last. The air grew calmer, though the power of the fleet still loomed above. Ceres turned to Aaron. Your people will not be harmed. As long as I reign, their strength will be honored. Aaron met her eyes. We ask for nothing but to live free and together, she nodded. And that you shall have. The sun set behind them, painting the sky with golden fire. The ships above waited silently, their power ready but unused. In that moment, two worlds touched, one of crowns and fleets, the other of soil and hands. Between them stood Ceres, no longer only a queen of a throne, but a queen who had learned from farmers what true strength meant. Yet in her heart, Ceres knew this was only the beginning. The council would resist her words. The empire would question her choices. But she also knew that she carried with her a truth that no army could silence. And beside her stood Aaron, whose simple strength had lit a fire in her spirit that would guide her path. The fleet waited silently as Ceres walked among the colonists one last time. The fires burned low in the fields, and the wind carried the soft smell of earth and crops. Children ran to her, offering small gifts, a carved stick, a bundle of herbs, a woven bracelet. She took them all with a gentle smile. For the first time in years, she felt the true weight of power, not in ships or gold, but in the trust and love of those who gave freely from their hearts. Aaron stood beside her, hands rough from labor, eyes steady and warm. He had faced raiders and rebuilt broken systems, yet he never spoke of glory. He simply lived with honesty and courage. Ceres had learned more from him than from any counsel or book. Will you return with us? Aaron asked softly, his voice calm as always. Ceres looked up at the fleet hovering above. Their engines hummed with quiet strength, ready to follow her command. She thought of her palaces, her advisors, and the endless halls where titles and wealth weighed heavier than truth. Then she turned back to the simple colony, where life thrived not because of power but because of care. Yes, she said at last, I must return, but not as before. I will take what I have learned here to my empire. Aaron nodded. Then go knowing that we will continue as we have. We survive because we care for each other. The colonists gathered around her, watching quietly. Ceres knelt among them, speaking words that would remain in their hearts long after she left. I have seen strength in ways no throne can measure. You who work the soil, who share what little you have, who stand together against fear, are the true power of this galaxy. I will carry your lessons with me always. A young boy stepped forward and held out a small stone, smooth and warm from the sun. For you, so you remember us, he said. Ceres accepted it, pressing it to her chest. The gesture, small and honest, moved her deeply. She had spent lifetimes surrounded by gold and jewels. Yet this stone, given freely, was more precious than any treasure she had ever known. As the fleet prepared to lift off, Ceres turned one last time toward Aaron. You taught me something I had forgotten. Power is nothing without heart. The greatest leaders are those who care, even when they are not asked to. The strongest people are not always the ones with wealth or weapons, but the ones who choose to stand together and help one another. Aaron smiled faintly. Then you have learned well. But remember, a ruler cannot protect everything. Some things must be chosen carefully. You have seen what is truly important. Ceres nodded. She gave him a final smile, one that carried gratitude and respect deeper than words could express. Then with a sweep of her hand she signaled the fleet to rise. The ships lifted off, engines humming with quiet power, carrying the queen and her lessons back to the heart of her empire. The colonists watched in awe, yet there was no fear, only understanding. They had seen that even the most powerful could learn humility and courage. They had been part of something greater than themselves, a story that would echo in their lives for years to come. Aaron returned to his work in the fields, his hands again rough with labor. He did not boast of what had happened. He did not seek recognition. Yet inside him he felt a quiet pride. He had shown kindness to a stranger, and in return he had taught a queen a lesson about what made humans remarkable. Far above, the stars stretched wide, and the fleet moved toward the center of the galaxy. Ceres looked down on the world she had ruled from afar. She thought of her advisors and the councils that waited impatiently. They would question her, challenge her decisions, and perhaps even mock what she had learned. But she knew that she carried the truth that mattered most. She would change the way her empire ruled. She would value courage, loyalty, and care above golden titles, and she would always remember the small colony at the edge of the galaxy, where a simple farmer had given her the greatest gift of all, the understanding of the human heart. As the fleet disappeared into the stars, the colony settled into quiet evening once more. Children slept under the open sky, and families shared what little they had. Aaron looked up at the fading glow, a small smile on his face. Life would continue as it always had, humble and steady, yet stronger for the lessons shared that day. Ceres's words, her actions, and the time she spent among them left a mark not just on her empire, but on every heart that had met her. She had learned that humans, in their simplicity and perseverance, held a power beyond fleets, wealth, or crowns. That power was love, courage, and unity. And in the galaxy, a new story began. One where the greatest rulers would never forget the lessons learned in the dust and fields of a small colony. And one farmer who had helped a queen, not knowing that he had changed the future of countless worlds.